Hello everyone, welcome back to our next episode, The Nurturing Corner with Shuni, to talk about separation anxiety. So Indora, we wanted to understand a little bit more about like separation anxiety because like as a mom, when I started like with my first one, I noticed like when he was like 5, 6 months, so especially when strangers were there uh, or if he would not see me in the room, he would be very uncomfortable. At that point, it was difficult for me as a mom to understand what was happening, but is that separation anxiety that babies experience at that point?
Yes. So at around 8 months or so, some a little before, some a little later, is when we call it a developmental crisis in Montessori. So they go through something called objectivation crisis. And it's a developmental milestone. It's something good that we observe in children because they are starting to understand that they are separate from you and you're going away, right? And until then, they don't understand. They understand the difference between familiar and not familiar. So all these things are cognitive things that the child is developing, and every child goes through this.
So at that point, they have started identifying their comfort zone and the comfort around, and
Yes.
so okay, and it happens as early as that
Yes.
age.
Yeah.
Okay, but even at that age, you see some kids are very comfortable, like even with strangers, like who they are seeing for the first time. But some kids are completely very like
Right.
they cry a lot or they would cling to you so much.
Yeah.
So how does one as a parent help the child in that situation? Like,
Yes.
is there something we can do for a 8 month old to navigate that feeling?
Yes, so like we spoke about temperament, how they react to this depends a lot on their temperament. Some children are more sociable, so they will be more comfortable, but every child does go through this. And you can see that they are a little more cranky, like they cry more often. As soon as the primary caregiver is out of sight, they feel very uncomfortable. Some might cry loudly, some might just whimper depending on their temperament, but they will be more clingy during this period. And how we help it is one good thing is even to make object permanence is what we need to teach them, that this person or this object exists even though it's not in front of your eyes.
But isn't that a very, very
Yeah.
difficult concept to explain to a baby?
Yes, so that's why we do peekaboo. Peekaboo is a very nice game to play because they cognitively understand that, oh, I can't see my mother's face, and now I opened it, or my father's face, now I can see it. So peekaboo is a very good game to play. Even if you take like the object permanence box, they call it, like a box with a ball, you put the ball inside the box, you can't see it. Then you open the box, the ball is still there. So these are things that they can cognitively understand. So these are very good things, tools to give to the child at this age.
That's very interesting. When you said peekaboo is also some
Yeah.
a game. I mean, through play, they are learning this. Okay. So, you also said that the parent also needs to be able to handle the anxiety, right? Because it is a natural response. You're a parent, you're hearing your child cry, you will also be equally anxious at that point of time because you wonder what has happened. Then, how do you train yourself on this? Because there are different levels of. As a parent, you will be then sending them to school. You'll be leaving them with nannies at home or going for work or all these different situations that you will face. So yourself also, how do you train yourself as a parent that you,
Yes.
I think there's a separation anxiety for parents also.
Birth was the first separation physically. Then the child was at the mother's breast. Weaning is the next separation. Then objectivation crisis is the next separation. There are series of separations, and unless we understand this and understand that how positive a separation is because it leads to something bigger and more independence in the child's life, until then we can't be calm and regulated ourselves. And it is important for us to be regulated. Especially, you were talking about school, because when we put the child in school, that is huge because for so many hours the parent is not seeing the child. But it's important. So there are a few things that we can do when we drop off the child at school. Firstly, we have to prepare the child that this is what will be happening, and that's the first one. Next one is to for you to trust that the child is going to a safe space. Unless you trust the process, the child won't be, because even though you might not say it, the child can really sense your anxiety. They're so tuned into the parents that they can sense your anxiety. So that's important. And thirdly, the drop off needs to be quick. I mean, don't go on extending it, because if you do trust the adults inside, like if you're giving the child to your partner, your to the father, even when the child is crying, do you go on extending the process, or you trust your partner, so you give the child and go to work? That should be the way it should happen in school also, once the child has settled a bit. Yeah.
But also, I think at that drop off point, this child also is sensing your anxiety because,
Yes.
like for myself, like when my older one started school, he would sense it that he's going to be dropped off, and then he would start crying, and he would know that I would respond to his crying, and I might just linger on a little bit more. Then eventually, his teacher told me that as soon as you step away and are out of his sight, he is fine. So it's okay to leave him and go. But as a first time mom, I used to think that I'm doing the worst thing possible for my child by dropping him there and then leaving it. But I think the child was also sensing that somebody is responding to my anxiety, and I might as well just create a, like, show it much more than I am feeling.
Also, the child feels that if you're anxious, oh, maybe it's something that I need to be anxious about, right? Because socially they're taking everything from you, because the child is not developed to think for himself about these situations. He kind of mimics his emotions and responses, mimic your emotions and responses. So that's what they think. But also, once you drop off, or before dropping off, when the child is crying, to acknowledge it. Don't say, hey, there's nothing to cry about. Say, I know you're crying, you don't like to leave me, but it is upsetting, but you need to go, and you are going to be fine in school. To acknowledge it, but to take a stand that you are going, right?
One strategy that you was also is again talking to them, giving them a little bit of an idea of what is going to come, acknowledging how they are feeling. But sometimes even through this process, while you might still become, but some kids take a long time to settle in a new environment away from you. Then is that indicative of something else for the child, or do we need to dig deeper, or we should be still okay with the process and let it happen?
Yes, it's just indicative of the child's temperament, like how we spoke about adaptability and all that. So some children do take longer. But the thing is, as soon as, even, I mean, I used to go and sit with my child in the school for the first few days. You'll see that there's a point where the child starts trusting the adult inside. Allow the child to trust the adult in the environment.
True. I think that trust is important because, again, just from my own personal experience with my second one, I saw it a little less in him because he knew that his older brother is also in the same school. Yeah. They are going together. So for him, then it became like, this is an environment where my brother is there, and this is something I can also be there in. So that maybe that inherent trust was there, which helped him navigate it.
And also, you would have seen the process, right, of his brother going to school, so he knows what to expect.
And he was looking forward to it. It was something exciting that my brother is there. I want to be there. So Indola, like, most of us are working moms now. We have to leave our child at an earlier age, even at home, maybe with grandparents or with family or with even nannies that we have at home. So there, we ourselves are feeling an anxiety when we are leaving. But sometimes culturally also it adds up, like you are a working person, you are leaving your child, all these things also like kind of add up for us. Then how do we also then navigate the situation for ourselves personally, because it's not easy to leave your child and go, you're always worrying about the child, but how do you make yourself feel comfortable in the situation? Is there something we can do for ourselves
to understand why we are doing what we're doing, right? Because mom guilt is very real, and society doesn't help to lessen it at all, right? Because firstly, the adults in our house are very uncomfortable with crying. It is something that's just passed down. So as soon as we become parents, we should be okay with it. Like, crying is a means of communication, and the child is going to take time to get used to new situations. But why are you going to work? First, it may be financial reasons. Otherwise, I think the most important is because you want that satisfaction also. Like many mothers I've seen who've left work and with the children, some are capable of doing that, and they're happy. So in that case, you should do it. But if you're the kind of mother who likes to work and have your own career, you cannot be happy leaving your work and being with the child. You're not doing justice to the child, leave alone yourself, because you're not really able to be there for the child. mentally.
In separation anxiety, is crying the only way that the child is expressing, or are there other things we as parents should be clued in and see that maybe the child has not cried, but he's still feeling anxious and some behavioral changes have come in the child?
Yes. So anytime the child is feeling anxious about anything, not just separation anxiety, eating is one thing that gets affected. Toileting is one thing that gets affected, because that's why you say toileting regression, sleeping regression. So all these three things get affected. But it may also be things like vaccination or anything like that. So you need to know what's happening in the child's life and what changes have happened to know why these.
Thank you, Hindola, for this amazing discussion. We, all of us as parents, have experienced anxiety, separation anxieties with our kids and have seen our kids go through it. And thank you for understanding what it means, how we can navigate it better for them and for ourselves. To all my viewers, thank you for tuning in today. And we look forward to hearing from you. Stay tuned in for much more exciting topics from us and do write into us. Until then, thank you.